that will be established today, we pray your blessings upon this leadership. For this new administration and for hope that comes only from you. May we be like the tree that is planted by the waters, and may we shun wickedness. We acknowledge Isaiah 33:22, which states that for the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king, it is He who will save us. Lord God, we pray for unity as we seek your kingdom and righteousness. We pray for unity to fight illegal drugs.
That's returning Senator Alan Peter Cayetano there leading the prayer. As we mentioned, magkakaroon po ng national anthem based on the agenda. Also the reading of the COMELEC resolution proclaiming the 12 winning candidates for senators and then their oath of office. And we will go back and we'll continue to show you live pictures from the opening of both the Senate and the House of Representatives. Prof, balikan. It also has, based on the proposal, no, it also has a provision to scrap or reschedule the barangay and the SK election schedule for the end of the year kasi daw makakatipid daw ng funds. What do you think about that?
You know, that has been a process, I think, no, sa Kongreso din, ano, for the suspension muna, no, ng elections because of there are many things that we have to address. Right. I think there are, of course, no. Again, as I've mentioned a while ago, it's a welcome idea, right? But siguro yung mga congressman din natin, you have to look at what are those very important bills, or what are those important projects, no, that we have to do, no. I think that's a thing that I would like to bring. But of course, no, that bangon bayan muli. I mean, that kind of, you know, policy, it's just very welcome. No? I think we can take some opportunities from that. No? Of course, for our people. No? At least, yun yung sinasabi ko na more benefit, of course, for the masses.
And also another one, nakausap ko rin kasi si Congressman Salceda, at least his version of the bill, sabi niya, they will give special powers to the President in terms of fighting off inflation, yung pagtaas ng presyo ng mga bilihin. Kailangan pa po ba itong special powers?
Medyo ano ako, medyo may doubt ako on that. No? I think
yung ibang minensyon niya, siguro yung anti-hoarding daw, special powers for anti-hoarding, that agencies like the Energy Department or the DTI, the Trade Department, can just investigate possible market abuse, halimbawa price manipulation, yung mga ganun po.
Yeah, of course, the president has a lot of things to do, but siguro giving him more power could be a good initiative or a good strategy, right? To really have his control, right? To all these things that are happening. But of course, the Congress should really still ensure, no, na mayroon that there is this again, that there is this possibility, no, na magamit pa yung power into a different way. But I think that's fine. That's fine. But the Congress should really ensure that those measures for us to ensure na walang mangyayari na, I mean, to use the power in others. That's I think that the Congress should really bring or to ensure that.
Siguro, what can you see yung challenges for 19th Congress? We already talked about yung having a supermajority and yung sinasabi nga ni Speaker Romualdez kanina, well, incoming Speaker Romualdez, sabi niya wala daw hindrances. We see a very smooth parang cooperation between both houses. Or challenges siguro?
Siguro institutionally, if you're going to move into, to look into some of the institutional aspects of what are those possible challenges, is that siguro yung challenges in terms of passing, wala na yun, ano? Hindi talaga. But of course, the challenge for the minority really is very heavy, no? For them to battle or for them to contest or to check, right? Whatever the majority will be having, right? I think it's more on the challenge of bringing what are those important policies to be discussed or to be tackled in the Congress. I think that's a very important challenge that they have to bring in here. Ang sinasabi ko nga kanina is that economic policies medyo siguro matindi, no, yung gagawin nila dyan, no, I mean, attention that they have to give into that. Yes.
Okay, we'll take you to the Senate now for the opening of the first regular session of the 19th Congress. Let's listen in.
Zubiri Juan Miguel F., Villanueva Emmanuel Joel J., Ejercito Joseph Victor G., Ontiveros Ana Teresita N., and Estrada Jinggoy E. be considered read into the record. Copies of the COMELEC resolution were earlier distributed to the members of the Senate.
Is there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved, and I would like to ask Senator Angara to rise to the podium.
Majority Leader. May we now proceed with the administering of the oath of office to the 12 newly elected senators. We'll now proceed with the formal oath taking. May we request, Your Honors, that you take your oath in your respective seats. So please, to the 12 new senators, please rise and take your copies of the oath of office. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name. Having been elected to the position of Senator, do hereby solemnly swear that I will well and faithfully discharge, to the best of my ability, the duties of my present position, and of all others I may hereafter hold, under the Republic of the Philippines, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the Philippines, that I will obey the laws and legal orders and decrees promulgated by the duly constituted authorities, and maintain true faith and allegiance to the Republic of the Philippines, and that I impose this obligation upon myself voluntarily, without mental reservation or purpose of evasion. So help me God. Please accept our warmest congratulations, Your Honors. Welcome. Congratulations, Your Honors. The Secretary now will please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senator Angara, Senator Binay, Senator Cayetano Alan Peter, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Hontiveros, Senator Lapid, Senator Ligarda, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pimentel III, Senator Poe, Senator Revilla, Senator Tolentino, Senator Tulfo, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Cincia, Senator Villar Mark, the Acting Senate President Subiri.
With 24 senators present, the Chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we now proceed with the election of the President of the Senate. So move.
Is there any objection? There being done, the motion is approved. We will now proceed with the election of the President of the Senate.
Mr. President, may I have the floor for a nomination?
Certainly, the Majority Leader, Senator Villanueva, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues. In Romans chapter 8, verse 28, it says, and I quote, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Close quote. 3 years ago, Mr. President, in 2019, in the 18th Congress, I also had the privilege to nominate Senator Zubiri for the position of Majority Leader. The past 3 years have shown how he surpassed our expectations and those of the Filipino people, which this august legislative body serves and stands for. With his demonstrated ability as consensus builder, Senator Mig Zubiri set the tone and led this chamber towards accomplishing the agenda of the Filipino people, even amidst the pandemic, leaving behind a productive 18th Congress with 500 bills of national and local applications passed into law. Among the top of the list are the COVID-19 Vaccination Program Act and the Bayanihan to Recover as one act. But the 18th Congress was not the first time he held leadership posts. At 39 years of age during the 14th Congress, he became the youngest majority floor leader since the first Congress in 1946. And again, he was Senate Majority Leader in the 17th Congress. He served in both houses of Congress for almost 2 decades, mentored by the senators who came before us, like Senators Miriam Defensor Santiago, Edgardo Angara, Aquilino Pimentel, and Joker Arroyo. In the previous Congress, he was part of the leadership team of the Senate, consisting of Senate President Tito Soto, Senate President Pro Tempore Ralph Recto, and Minority Leader Frank Drilon. Indeed, there is an appointed time for everything. 2 nights ago, if I recall, Senator Zubiri shared with us that this is actually his favorite verse in the Bible, found in the book of Ecclesiastes, that God's timing is perfect. Indeed, God's timing is perfect. It's not too late, it's not too soon. The trabahador ng Senado is now ripe for the Senate presidency. Ika nga po sa amin sa Bulacan, ang bungang hinog sa sanga, matamis ang lasa. Senator Migs and several other senators present here today, Senator Cheese, Senator Alan, Senator Sani, Senator Aimee, Senator Risa, Senator Win, and I became colleagues in the lower house during the 12th and 13th Congresses. We have seen with our own 2 eyes how Senator Zubiri transformed from an athletic heartthrob to a statesman. What strikes me the most is the unique quality of his leadership. He is a dedicated government servant, advocate, and policymaker. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as we have seen the same leadership brand from his parents, Governor Joe Zubiri of Bukidnon and Victoria Fernandez Zubiri of Albay. The way Senator Zubiri handles the stresses and high-level demands of the positions he holds never fails to surprise me until now. Tensions, confusion, and disagreements do not easily rattle him. He can manage to keep his cool and face adversities with a smile. Sabi nga po ng marami sa atin, dito sa Senado, kung may boses na nakakapagpakalma at ngiting nakakatunaw, kay Senator Migs yan. We always wait for him to say, "We have just passed another happy bill," because it reminds us that we can achieve more if we come together, trust, and cooperate. His legislative accomplishments are laudable. He is the principal author and sponsor of hundreds of laws of national application, both in the Senate and during his stint as 3-term congressman of Bukidnon. To take stock of his legislative track record, I say that Senator Zubiri's leadership traits best fit for Senate presidency: compassionate, collaborative, and creative. His compassion stems from being an environmentalist. As a fervent advocate of clean energy, he worked for the passage of Renewable Energy Act of 2008, RA 9153, and the Biofuels Act of 2006, RA 9367, earning him the moniker Mr. Clean Energy. He is also the founder of the Philippine Deer Foundation, a deer conservation project. His master's degree in Environment and Natural Resources Management from the University of the Philippines Open University firmly deepened his causes for these issues and evidence his commitment to lifelong learning. His collaborative skills come from the value he appropriates for cooperatives. We call him the father of the new cooperative code, because he is the principal author and sponsor of Republic Act number 9520, or the Philippine Cooperative Code of 2008. His investment in the growth of the cooperative sector carried over to the 17th and 18th Congresses, where he chaired the Committee on Cooperatives. His creativity flows from being an entrepreneur and an athlete. He is the chairman and president of the Philippine Eskrima Kali Arnis Federation, the National Sports Association for Arnis. Under his leadership, PECAF was responsible for training and supporting the Philippine National Arnis team. PECAF earned a record 14 gold medals in the 30th Southeast Asian Games. While our previous Senate President is a multi-awarded bowler, our next Senate President is a gold medalist at the 1989 World Arnis Championships. Pero wag po kayong mag-alala dahil kahit ang mga issue na hindi madadaan sa debate, may mga isyong ganon, hindi po ito idadaan ni Senator Mig sa martial arts at Arnis. This institution must serve the Filipino people. And with Senator Zubiri at its helm, steering and charting its course, it can do much more. Ang institusyong ito ay saksi mula pa noong 1916 na nasa taong bayan ang totoong kapangyarihan. Isang bagay na malinaw kay Senator Zubiri na nabanaag natin sa kanyang mga naipasang mga batas, mga desisyong ginawa niya dito sa plenaryo ng Senado at advokasiyang isinulong sa loob at labas ng lehislatura. Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri, my nominee for the Senate presidency, is a veteran legislator, having served in both houses of Congress and having posted perfect attendance across 2 decades of service. He knows by heart and as a second nature the Senate rules and the ins and outs of navigating the legislative procedures, duties, responsibilities, and bureaucracy. Consequently, and as evidence to what I mentioned previously, are his legislative accomplishments, the various committee and posts he held in both houses of Congress, and how he handled, managed, and executed his duties and responsibilities, of which we are all witnesses. In Psalms chapter 78, verse 72, so he shepherded them according to the integrity of his heart and guided them with his skillful hands. Higit sa lahat, Ginoong Pangulo, siya ay isang mabuti at mapagmahal na asawa sa kanyang kabiyak na si Audrey at uliran at mapag-arugang ama sa kanyang mga anak na sina Adriana, Juanmi at ang aking BFF si Santi. Kaya ganun na lang po ang kanyang katapatan at pagmamahal sa ating bayan. Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri is the most qualified and eligible among us to preside over the Senate of the 19th Congress of the Philippines. For the above reasons and more, I nominate the gentleman from Bukidnon, Senator Juan Miguel Migs Zubiri, as our next Senate President. Thank you very much, and may God bless us all.
Thank you, the Acting Majority Leader, Senator Joel Villanueva. Mr. President, Majority Leader. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. President, at this juncture, may I ask that Senator Lauren Legarda be recognized for the nomination? So moved.
The distinguished lady from Antique, Senator Lauren Legarda, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Distinguished colleagues, Senator Juan Miguel Mig Zubiri, who served this august chamber as Majority Floor Leader during the 18th Congress, has demonstrated his ability to lead and manage the legislative affairs of the Senate. He collaborated closely with former Senate President Vicente Tito Soto III, former Senate President pro tempore Ralph Recto, and former Minority Leader Franklin Drilon. Together, they guided the Philippine Senate to a fruitful 18th Congress despite the challenges of the more than 2.5 years pandemic. Dynamic, hardworking, congenial, forward-looking, there is never a day I do not see Senator Mig Zubiri not smiling. At siya ang tunay na trabahador ng Senado. It is my honor and privilege to nominate Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri of Mindanao as Senate President of the 19th Congress. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Legarda. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask that Senator Jinggoy Ejercito Estrada be recognized for the nomination.
The gentleman from San Juan, Senator Jinggoy Ejercito Estrada, is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Presiding Officer. Morning to our esteemed colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As we open today the 19th Congress, our people expect as members of this upper chamber to keep the role of the Senate as the last bastion of democracy, a revered institution that consistently upholds the national interest, protects civil, political, and human rights, and promotes transparency and accountability in public service. The last national elections was probably the most divisive in recent years. More than 2 months has since passed. We now have to buckle down and perform our respective mandates as elected officials of this country. And as we navigate a challenging recovery from the pandemic, amid the resurgence of COVID-19 cases, the Senate needs to steer needed pieces of legislation to build back a better economy. And to get things done, there's no one in my mind that could lead the present composition of the Senate but Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri, or Senator Migs, as we fondly call him. However, if you were to ask me 2 decades ago what my impressions are about of Senator Migs, my answer would probably be not the most glowing. After all, we were then at the opposite ends of the political spectrum. I was part of the first family, while the neophyte Congressman Zubiri was with the opposition, who was among the most critical of my father's administration. Ngunit may kasabihan tayo, bilog ang mundo. At gaya ng mga bagay sa ating buhay, gayon din sa larangan ng politika, marami na po ang nagbago. Ang ilang bumabati ko sa atin ngayon, noon ay kaalyado at mabuting kaibigan na natin ngayon. To borrow the very witty but wise words of my father, weather lang yan. As I came to know him up close and personal in the 4 years that we were together in the Senate, I came to admire the man. When I was honored to be our Senate President Pro Tem during the 14th Congress, he was our hard-working majority floor leader. As majority leader, Senator Migs demonstrated competence and expertise on parliamentary rules and procedures and was able to steer and guide floor deliberations and pending measures with utmost fairness and direction, effectively creating an atmosphere of cooperation and understanding from both the majority and minority members. Indeed, I saw firsthand how this gentleman works. Totoong trabador ng Senado. He was a true consensus builder, finding ways and means to shepherd the passage of important measures and effectively navigated the so-called 24 republics that is this institution. His recognition as a consensus leader in the upper chamber was the reason why he regained his majority leadership, first bestowed upon him during the 14th Congress, in the 17th, and in the last 18th Congresses. And as the majority leader during the 18th Congress, he dutifully stood on this august floor, sometimes until the wee hours of the night, and even during the dangerous times when COVID emptied it of warm bodies. And on a personal note, nang ako'y nalugmok, hindi siya sumama sa mga taong sumipa sa akin ang ako'y dapandapa. This shows his decency and respect for a fellow public servant, and I thank him for that. A true gentleman, totoong tao, patas na kausap. Ngunit hindi tayo naghahanap ng pinuno na mabait o malambing o may pakikisama lamang. Ang hanap natin ay isang leader na masipag, magaling, at higit sa lahat, may alam. And to quote Martin Luther King, a genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. And in several instances in the past, Senator Zubiri displayed his ability to diffuse the tension on the Senate floor through his ice cream diplomacy. His amiable personality, coupled with good looks, aminin na natin, artistahin, gaya ng mga ibang artista rito, katulad ni Senator Robin Padilla, Senator Bong Revilla, Senator Lito Lapid, huwag niya na po ako isama sapagkat itong aking mga nabanggit na Senador Martista, mga superstar do, tigit sa lahat, mas maganda lalaki kaysa akin. At minsan na rin siyang nagpakita ng tapang nang ipagtanggol niya ang integridad ng Senado mula sa akusasyong pag-whitewash ng sinasagawang investigasyon sa isang bribery extortion scandal na kinakasangkutan ng ilang opisyal ng Bureau of Immigration. Sabi nga niya, I didn't become world champion in our niche for nothing. Sabi niya sa isang katunggali niya, Senador. Ngunit sa huli, pinairal pa rin ni Senator Miggs ang pagiging maginoo. Pagpapamalas ito ng isang mabuting leader na hindi hayaang madungisan ang institusyong kinabibilangan natin ngayon. As we face our future with the pandemic still in the midst, we can depend on a Senate leader who can exercise his best judgment, sound prudence, and wisdom, one who can help chart the destiny of our nation. Sa kanyang mahabang taon na karanasan bilang mambabatas sa 2 kapulungan ng Kongreso, nagsimula siyang itim ang kanyang buhok hanggang sa naging puti na lahat. Masasabi kong buong-buo ng kanyang kalaman at kakayahan upang pangunahan ang pagsasakutuparan ng mabigat na papel ng Senado sa pagbangon ng bayan mula sa dagok ng pandemya. I am voting for Senator Miggs because his consultative approach in bringing together the best ideas that 24 of us can offer is the best vaccine against gridlock, which has plagued us so many times in the past. He is the Senate President we should have in these times when we are under immense pressure to deliver to the people what they need. He is the Senate President that we want to ensure that this institution will be a true workhorse, efficient, productive in terms of legislating the urgent policies to revive the economy, and truly responsive to the needs of the Filipinos. In closing, I would like to borrow a line from the 1957 inaugural speech of former President Carlos P. Garcia, and I quote, "Together we will meet our common problems and difficulties. With a singleness of purpose together, we will overcome them." And to continue to preserve the independence and integrity of the Senate, I respectfully nominate Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri as our next Senate President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Chingoy Hears de Estrada, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this juncture, Mr. President, I ask that Senator Grace Poe be recognized for the nomination.
Distinguished lady from Iloilo and Pangasinan, Senator Grace Poe is recognized.
Mr. Presiding Officer, fellow senators of the Republic, it is my honor to nominate Senator Juan Miguel Mig Zubiri, the most charming gentleman senator of this current wave of statesmen, as the Senate President of the 19th Congress. Congress deserves hard-working public servants, and it is my honor to be led by the best of us all. A real trabajador ng Senado who posts perfect attendance year in and out, all in his time in Congress. There's a very thin line between utmost efficiency and slave driving, and Senator Zubiri treads this line wonderfully. We have seen Senator Miggs shepherd priority measures on the floor like clockwork, and that is exactly the kind of dedication we need to bounce back after a pandemic. Like the law, he principally authored RA 11032, or the Anti-Red Tape Act. He promotes ease of doing business and efficiency delivery of government services on the Senate floor. He has served twice as the majority leader, and we all witnessed firsthand his mastery of the Senate rules as he pushed landmark legislation on the Senate floor. And if all else fails, as a master bolero, he can turn even the most vehement objections into reluctant agreement and eventually into full consent. He is the founder and chairman emeritus of the Committee on Charm. Sa sobrang galing, pati si dating minority leader Franklin Drilon bumoboto kasama ang majority. Today he graduates from the front bench to wielding the gavel. I've no doubt he will use it fairly and wisely and for the benefit of the Filipino people. It is my privilege to nominate the most foreign-looking senator, but a true Filipino statesman, to lead us in the 19th Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Poe, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may I ask that Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa be recognized for the nomination? So moved.
The gentleman from Davao del Sur, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. General Montgomery of the British Army said, "Leadership is the capacity and the will to rally men and women to a common purpose, and the character which inspires confidence." Leadership, which I can attest, is an attribute that Senator Zubiri possesses. I have witnessed his excellence in leading 23 individuals with 23 different opinions on national issues during the 18th Congress. True to his moniker as Trabajador sa Senado, I have seen how Senator Miguel Zubiri passionately worked for the benefit of our people. He was instrumental in ensuring that this august body fulfills our sworn constitutional mandate of enacting laws for the common good during the 18th Congress. Senator Zubiri does not stop working even when he is sick. Not even the deadly COVID-19 weakened his dedication for public service. He showed us his unwavering commitment to work during the peak of COVID-19 pandemic. While there was confusion and uncertainties that time, Senator Zubiri, together with the members of the 18th Congress, worked our ways with blood, sweat, and perhaps tears, so our executive department will be equipped to effectively combat the detrimental effects of the pandemic. All in a day's work of an enthusiastic senator such as Senator Zubiri. There will be debates and disagreements among us colleagues, like every Congress should. Every senator in this chamber has his or her own view and belief, but I certainly know that the leadership of Senator Zubiri will bind us all together in carrying out our duties and responsibilities as trabajadores of our people. Mr. President, as a Mindanaoan, it is with great honor and pride to second the nomination of our trabajador sa Senado, my fellow Mindanaoan, Senator Miguel Zubiri, as Senate President. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator De La Rosa, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, may I ask that Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito, our comebacking seatmate, be recognized for the nomination.
The other gentleman from San Juan, Senator J.V. Ejercito. Let it be put on record that Senator Jinggoy mentioned him as the good one. They're both good ones, Mr. President. We recognize Senator J.V. Ejercito for his nomination.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we begin the 19th Congress, we find the country facing difficult challenges. We're still grappling with the COVID-19 pandemic as daily cases continue to rise. Prices have skyrocketed because of forces beyond our control. Political divisions still haunt us, as evidenced by the horrific shooting at the Ateneo yesterday. Globally, the war in Ukraine, the skirmishes between China and the U.S. in our region, and the territorial disputes among Asian countries continue to create uncertainties for our future as a country. The Senate has historically been the bastion of democracy in our history. Those revered statesmen and stateswomen that have come before us led the country in facing their own challenges. Their patriotism and bravery have made the Senate what it is today. They've won their battles. This is our battle. This is our time. And as we go to battle, I am comforted by the fact that the Senate of the 19th Congress is composed of 24 men and women whose love of country cannot be doubted. I am comforted by the fact that we will be led by the man I am so honored and privileged to nominate as Senate President. Senator Zubiri has been a big part of the Senate stands for now, a competent, compassionate institution that is always ready to serve the Filipino people in times of peace or crisis. Senator Miggs was Majority Leader in 3 Congresses, the 18th, the 17th, and the 14th Congress, which made him the youngest elected Senate Majority Leader since 1946. This demonstrates not just Senator Mig's knowledge of the Senate history and its rules, but his strong leadership, his charisma, and his self-assured temperament that is so critical in leading an institution like the Senate. Senator Mix is an honorable man who once gave up his place in the Senate in order to defend this institution and protect his loved ones. He is a dedicated and committed public servant who has recorded complete attendance in his 20 years in public service and passed meaningful laws that benefit our people. On a personal note, Mr. President, I would like to thank Senator Mig Zubiri because we have been together in 2 national elections, 2013. Although we were not together as a team in 2019, I know for a fact that he was one of the happiest persons that I made it to the Senate. Kami po ay maganda ang samahan. We had a very good chemistry pag magkasama kami. Ako po yung kape, siya po yung coffee mate. Kapit gatas. And as a principal, on a personal note also, Mr. President, as the principal sponsor of the Universal Healthcare Law and the creation of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, when he was Majority Leader, he was the one pushing me. Lagi niya sinasabi sa akin, James, tara na, ikalendara natin yan para maipasa na natin. Kailangan natin maipasa. Those are 2 landmark legislations. He really pushed me. Thank you, bro, for really pushing me and being able to pass these 2 landmark legislations. It is because of you who really made sure that these laws will be taken up in the floor. Senator Mix possesses the kind of leadership that we need. Strong but not tyrannical, kind but not naive, cooperative but not subservient, humble, vigilant, and gallant. He is a loyal friend and ally, a pillar of the seatmate bloc of the Senate, who is always ready and willing to impart his knowledge and support to his colleagues. He is a family man, a loving husband, and protective father to his children. I know that there is no better person for the job than Senator Mix. It is therefore a privilege to nominate Senator Juan Miguel Mig Zubiri for the position of Senate President of this honorable chamber.
Thank you, Senator JV. Welcome back. We hope brotherly love will prevail in the next 3 years. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, at this juncture, with the consent of the body, there are no other nominations. I therefore move that we close the period of nomination and proceed to elect by acclamation Senator Juan Miguel F. Zubiri as President of the Senate.
Is there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved. Congratulations to Senate President Juan Miguel Fernandez Zubiri. Before we have the administering of the oath, I believe
yes, Mr. President.
Our former Majority Leader, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, wishes to make a manifestation.
Mr. President, I just like to ask that the record reflect that I did not participate in the voting to remain an independent, nor will I participate in the selection of the Minority Leader, but may I reserve the right and privilege to say good things about our Zubiri good Senate President elect. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. The manifestation is noted. I see 2 members of the Senate raising their hand, so I will recognize our 3
Senator
ladies.
Pia, Mr.
Senator,
President,
yes. I'm sorry, I did not see Senator Risa. So first, we have the lady from, just distinguished lady from Taguig, Senator Pia Cayetano.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Let me congratulate our newly elected Senate President. May the record show that I also did not cast my vote in favor of my esteemed colleague. At this point, I would like to remain independent. I will also not participate or cast my vote in favor of any minority leader. But as I have told the Senate President, he knows that my commitment for the amazing work that this Senate will produce. He has my commitment that I will participate and ensure that nothing less than excellent work will come out of the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pia.
Mr. President.
So the Senate President's charm did not work on you. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, may we recognize the gentleman from Cagayan de Oro, Senator Coco Pimentel?
Certainly, the bar top notcher, the brilliant lawyer from Cagayan de Oro, Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel is recognized.
Thank you, sir. Now that we have elected our Senate President, I'd like to manifest that I abstained from the election of the Senate President. But nonetheless, let me congratulate my silingan, kababayan from Region 10, our leader from Mindanao. So congratulations, sir. And we are all here to help this Senate succeed in this 19th Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pimentel. So the chamber will be dominated by Region 10, maybe? Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, may we also recognize and acknowledge recognize the distinguished lady from Akbayan, Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Yes, the distinguished lady from Akbayan Party List and province of the island of Panay is recognized.
Salamat, Mr. President. Mabuhi, SP Migs. Together with Senator Pimentel, I also make of record that I abstained on the vote on the Senate presidency, and I'm glad that it will be on record that SP Migs was uncontested. Mabuhay.
Thank you, George Leader.
Mr. President, may I ask for 1 minute suspension for the oath taking of our Senate President?
Session is hereby suspended. We ask Senator Lauren Legarda to join us to administer the oath to the Senate President, as well as the family of Senate President Zubiri to join here at the rostrum for his oath-taking as Senate President. And may we ask the members of the Senate and our guests to please rise for the Senate President's oath-taking.
Live pictures. You're watching live pictures from the Senate. Senate President Miguel Zubiri has formerly been elected as Senate President. They're now preparing for his oath taking. That's why they're taking a break. Earlier, we heard from Senators Villanueva, Loren Legarda, Jingoy Estrada, Grace Poe, Bato de la Rosa, and J.V. Ejercito, formally nominating him from the position. They were describing him as a dedicated public servant. Most of them called him ang trabajador ng Senado, and that now he's ripe for the Senate presidency. He's the most qualified and most eligible to become Senate president. That's what they said. Also, Senators Alan Peter Cayetano and Pia Cayetano manifested that they did not participate in voting for the Senate president, as well as Coco Pimentel and Risa Ontiveros both abstained. So Zubiri was uncontested, so it's still not clear as to who will become Senate Minority Leader at this point. We're waiting for the formal oath taking of Zubiri as Senate President. Let's listen in.
Baba natin ito ng konti. Pwede baba ng konti yung microphone. Baba natin ng konti.
Someone likes your seat.
Yeah. You can stay here, mom. You can stay here on the left. No, Audrey, dito ka na. Okay, there. You stay there. Where are my kids? Santi.
Okay, hi Vicky. Okay.
Wait, okay.
It is my honor to administer the oath before Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri. Please raise your right hand. I,
Juan Miguel F. Zubiri,
having been elected
as President of the Senate,
do hereby solemnly swear
that
I will well and faithfully discharge
to
the best of my ability
the
duties of my present position
duties of my present position
and of all others
and of all others
I may hereafter hold
that I may hereafter hold
under the Republic of the Philippines.
under the Republic of the Philippines,
That I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the Philippines.
the Constitution of the Philippines.
That I will obey the laws
I will obey the laws
and legal orders
and legal
decrees
orders and decrees
promulgated by the duly constituted authorities
promulgated by the duly constituted authorities
and maintain true faith and allegiance
and maintain true faith and allegiance
to the Republic of the Philippines.
to the Republic of the Philippines.
And that I impose this obligation
And that I impose this obligation
upon myself voluntarily without mental reservation
voluntarily without mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations, Senate President Zubiri. We'll now turn over the rostrum to the Senate President.
Again, you're watching live pictures from the Senate. Miguel Zubiri has just formally taken his oath as Senate President after he was nominated by his colleagues. Among those who spoke to nominate him were Senators Joel Villar, Legarda. Let's listen to his acceptance speech.
Maybe suspend the session for a minute.
Oh, that's okay. We can continue. Okay. We'll continue. Yeah, we can do this. Oh, would you want to? Okay, suspend. I move to suspend, Mr. President.
Again, they suspended the session. As per the agenda, we will have the acceptance speech of the Senate President following his oath-taking. Incoming Majority Leader Joel Villanueva has asked for a 1-minute suspension to continue with photo opportunities. Earlier, Zubiri was formally elected as Senate President, and we still don't have word as to who will be Senate Minority Leader, but Opposition Senator Ontiveros, also another expected senator in the minority, Coco Pimentel, both expressed that they abstained from voting for Zubiri. But they both promised to help the Senate succeed and pass vital legislation in 19th Congress. Also, Senators Alan Peter Cayetano and his sister Pia Cayetano expressed that they did not participate in voting for the Senate President, but they will remain independent. Let's take you back to the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations. Mr. President, we are ready to hear the address of the President of the Senate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My dear colleagues, friends, guests, most especially I'd like to welcome the members of the Diplomatic Corps that are here today, headed by His Excellency the Papal Nuncio, Most Reverend Charles John Brown, and all the other ambassadors, our dear colleagues, and of course our former colleagues of the Senate. To my family and friends, magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. To my colleagues, thank you for the trust. I shall repay that honor with hard work as your trabajador ng Senado. To my family, my wife Audrey, who's always been supportive of me 1,000%. To my children Adriana, Juan, me, and Santi. To my mother and father, Mommy Vicky and Daddy Joe, I pledge that nothing I do will stain the memory of our ancestors or sour your love for me. It is with humility that I accept this position. I do so conscious of the burden it carries and committed to the work it entails. As presiding officer, I may wield the gavel, but not the power of this institution. That power is shared by us all, by every one of you. and more so our main responsibility of responding to the needs of the people and respecting their will. I say this, my friends, because you and I know that never has the fate of the Senate been dependent on the hands of only one man. It has always rested on the collective shoulders of all its members. The Senate has been described as one of the main engines of the ship of state, all of its 24 cylinders firing, unleashing the energy that propels our nation forward. However, this Senate does not merely row, it also steers the ship so it will not run into shoals or storms. It is the reason why we have to keep watch, always. But every new Senate's course is chartered by the challenges under which it operates. Every new Senate job description is written by the crisis it must confront. And ours is dictated by multiple crises before us: food, fuel, fiscal, and the fading faith of our people in our institutions, just to name a few. On top of this is the COVID pandemic, which, courtesy of a mutating virus, will continue to disrupt lives and choke the economy before it can breathe its very last. But what it cannot suffocate is the fighting spirit of a people whose virtues of hard work, solidarity, compassion are greater than the virus at its vilest. This Senate will meet these big problems with bold thinking and brave legislation, but most especially, and I'm looking forward to this, bipartisanship. In this Senate workshop of great ideas, laws will be forged, and from which oversight of those who implement or ignore the laws will also be conducted. And speaking of oversight, we will exercise it not because we want to encroach on the executive branch or emasculate it of its powers. We do so in order to help government, the presidency even, remedy deficiencies in the delivery of public services and recalibrate ineffective policies. This Senate, under my leadership, however, will be one to solve problems more than it would find faults. While probes are magnets for publicity, and I learned this from the father of Sani Angara, Senator Ed Angara, it is the policies, laws patiently written line by line away from the limelight that drives progress. But for us to do our role, we must uphold the Senate's proud tradition of being independent. And that is important because the Senate's independence is a linchpin of its two other hallmarks: industry and innovation. Generations of our predecessors, whose names are etched on the wall leading to this hall, have exercised this to the benefit of our people. The Senate, therefore, is not an office of 24 receiving clerks for executive proposals. We will improve what has been proposed to us as we initiate our own. We do so not because we are rivals of power or for the other branch, but because we are partners for progress. We do so not to compete for influence, but to cooperate for the ways and means on how to bring the nation forward. This stance, practiced by all the Senates which had sat before us, has been the proven formula on how this chamber has been able to uphold the interests of the Republic and promote the welfare of our people. Our vigilance has purged proposed laws of provisions that harm the people. Our insight, on the other hand, have maximized the gains of our people will reap from laws. When bills are unnecessarily complicated, we inject it with common sense. When bills attempt to overreach, we shield the vulnerable. And when proposed tax rates are higher than what is reasonable, we make them fair or we make them go away. When the suggested spending borders on the frivolous, we remind them to be frugal. And when problems remain unattended, we come up with solutions. Not even the COVID-19 pandemic prevented the Senate before us from making emergency bills like Bayanihan 1 and Bayanihan 2 evolve into superior pieces of legislation despite having to conduct business remotely because every man and woman in this chamber rose to that occasion. Today, my dear colleagues, we will troop to the Batasan to hear President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. perform his constitutional duty of telling us the state of the nation. For sure, he will be asking Congress to support initiatives that will address the people's clamor for jobs, bring down prices of basic goods, affordable food, humane transport, among other relief measures. And when he enumerates them, my dear friends, let us view them in the proper context. That this is not a presidential wish list he crafted on his own, but a president articulating what the people want. So let us respond to what the people want urgently. And let us do it through the time-honored fashion by which the Senate has acted upon during times of crisis, by harnessing the best ideas from our brightest can offer. So the cures will not just bring temporary relief, but also permanently release our people from what ails them. Acting on this urgent request, I will also allow us to redeem the campaign promises and pledges that we have made. This will be the first down payment of what we owe the people for the mandate they have gifted us with. So let us come up with bills that deliver a big payload of solutions to the big problems of the land, what the people truly want, that will improve their lives, and not just pogi points for the Senate. Laws that will bring social good, not just social media hits. Jobs created, hunger reduced, inflation slashed, GNP growth, houses built, higher school test scores, and middle class expanded are the metrics that should gauge our performance instead of likes, shares, and views. Legislation must not lag behind the social, economic, and technological curve, my dear colleagues. It also must be ahead of what the people want. This requires scrutinizing the budget so that the tax payments will be spent on things that will go or do greater good, rather, than to those, or to do greater good to those who pay them. If there's one mission that should animate the Senate of the 19th Congress, it is an overriding theme. Then it must be a Senate of national reconstruction. But the recovery that we should work for together is not merely returning to where we were once before. It is catapulting ourselves to a better place than the past. And as we buckle down to work, let me issue some invitations. To the public, let me assure you that this is not only a multitasking Senate, it is also a crowdsourcing one. We value your ideas because this upper chamber will never be an echo chamber. To my fellow Senate workers, to the men and women of the Secretariat, in these trying times when so many expect so much from so few of us, the people expect no less than your hard work and professionalism. To my dear, dear colleagues in the majority, I remain with you in the trenches. I see no perks in this position. I temporarily hold this position through your grace, except the duty to work even harder. To my friends in the minority, I was once a loyal soldier of the opposition. And if there's one lesson I've carried with me ever since, it is that the strength of an idea is what makes it right, and not the sheer number of its believers. Let us debate and embrace ideas without regard from where they came from. My dear colleagues, my leadership will be one of consultation. Our output will be through consensus building. And if former Senate President Tito Sen was a father figure to all of us, then allow me to be your brother that will walk with you during these challenging times. Yes, my dear friends, no Senate in the past faced challenges as demanding and daunting as this one before us. But with hard work and dedication, we will deliver for the people. We shall help them overcome. The war against the pandemic is not yet over. The battle in many fronts is about to get worse. There is a future to be won. Let us go to our battle stations and fight to uplift our people's lives and make our nation even greater than before. Mabuhay ang Senado at mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.
Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Again, congratulations. At this juncture, Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the election of the Senate President pro tempore.
Is there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved. We will now proceed with the election of the Senate President pro tempore.
Mr. President, may I ask that Senator Sani Angara be recognized for the nomination?
Senator Angara is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct honor to nominate as Senate President pro tempore of the 19th Congress of the Republic of the Philippines, one of the most respected and well-loved lawmakers of the land, Senator Loren Legarda. Senator Legarda has earned for herself a long list of achievements as a legislator and policy advocate, all cementing her legacy as a champion of our collective cause for the Filipino nation. As a senator for 18 years and a congresswoman for 3 years, Senator Legarda authored numerous laws that shaped the policy landscape in the country for the environment, climate action, disaster risk reduction, sustainable development, cultural heritage preservation, and indigenous peoples' rights, among many others. She is a pioneer. She was the youngest senator when she began her first term in 1998 in this chamber. She was the only woman to have topped the senatorial election twice. She was the only woman to have served as Senate Majority Floor Leader at the young age of 41. She was both 8 towns or 10 outstanding.
Those are live pictures from the Senate. Senator Angara is now nominating Loren Legarda for Senate President pro tempore. Now we take you to the House of Representatives. Let's listen in.
Representative from the 6th District of Batangas, the Honorable Ralph G. Recto, to be recognized to second the nomination.
The distinguished representative from the 6th District of Batangas, the Honorable Ralph G. Recto, is recognized.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Mr. Presiding Officer, my dear colleagues, it is my privilege and honor to second the nomination of the Honorable Ferdinand Martin Romualdez of the 1st Legislative District of Leyte as Speaker of the House of Representatives of the 19th Congress. May I submit for insertion into the records the copy of my manifestation, but let me quote excerpts from it. Representative Romualdez can shepherd the bills that can help our country as skillfully as he can stop the ones that harm our people. He knows the policies that need to be crafted and the pragmatism to get them passed. I am confident that with him, a constitutionalist at the helm, he will keep the plenary a hospitable space for all opinions while keeping the conveyor belt of laws moving. In these trying times, he is the leader we need who could marshal our collective will and wisdom in tackling the brave and bold things that must be done. It is therefore my honor to work with him as our Speaker. I so move, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I move that the distinguished representative from the 3rd District of Davao City, the Honorable Isidro T. Ungab, be recognized to second the nomination.
The distinguished representative from the 3rd District of Davao City, the Honorable Isidro T. Ungab, is recognized.
Mr. Presiding Officer, it is my honor to second the nomination of the Honorable Martin Romualdez as Speaker of the House of Representatives in the 19th Congress. He is very much qualified, our former Majority Floor Leader in the 18th Congress, and it is with pride and honor that I second this nomination. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I move that the distinguished representative from the 1st District of Antipolo City, the Honorable Roberto V. Puno, be recognized to second the nomination.
The distinguished representative from the 1st District of Antipolo City, the Honorable Roberto V. Puno, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Mr. Presiding Officer, on behalf of the officers and members of the National Unity Party, it is my esteemed privilege and honor to second the nomination of the distinguished gentleman from the 1st Legislative District of Leyte, the Honorable Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, as the Speaker of the House of the Representatives. Mr. Presiding Officer, I have known the nominee, Congressman Romualdez, since 2007, when we both entered into the halls of Congress as neophyte congressmen of the 14th Congress. I know him to be a man of intelligence, a man of integrity, a man of industry. Our nation needs someone who is familiar with the pulse of the nation and with the rigors and adversities of leadership. It is my humble submission that Honorable Ferdinand Martin Gomez Romualdez is best suited to undertake the role of Speaker of the 19th Congress. I so move, Mr. Presiding Officer. Thank you.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I move that the distinguished representative from the Lone District of Las Piñas, the Honorable Camille A. Villar, be recognized to second the nomination.
The distinguished representative from the Lone District of Las Piñas City, the Honorable Camille A. Villar, is recognized.
Mr. Presiding Officer, it is with great honor on behalf of the Nacionalista Party that I second the nomination of the Honorable Ferdinand Martin Romualdez of the 1st Legislative District of Leyte as the Speaker of the House of Representatives of the 19th Congress. Representative Romualdez is a dedicated public servant who champions the welfare of the Filipino people, a statesman who preserves the integrity and unity of this institution, a leader whose ultimate vision is the greatness of this nation. I so move, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I move that the distinguished representative from the 2nd District of Ilocos Sur, the Honorable Christine Singson Mihan, be recognized to second the nomination.
The distinguished representative from the 2nd District of Ilocos Sur, the Honorable Christine Singson Mihan, is recognized.
Mr. Presiding Officer, on behalf of the Nationalist People's Coalition Party, I second the nomination of the Honorable Ferdinand Martin Romualdez of the 1st Legislative District of Leyte as Speaker of the House of Representatives. As we usher in the 19th Congress, we would be fortunate to have at the helm a man who has proven himself a reliable captain and navigator in what has been and continues to be one of the most turbulent periods in our country. The Honorable Romualdez maneuvered these uncharted waters with skill and grace, exhibiting a sublime knowledge of the law, a political acumen worthy of his family pedigree, and an unflappable and genial nature that served as a balm to flaring and fraying tempers in such troubled times. I so move, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I move that the distinguished representative from the TUCP party list, the Honorable Raymond Democrito C. Mendoza, be recognized to second the nomination.
The distinguished representative from the TUCP party list, the Honorable Raymond Democrito C. Mendoza, is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, as it has been my distinct, rare, and privilege to serve 6 distinguished speakers, now on to my 7th, with much pride, personally, on behalf of the 60-strong PCFI, Party List Coalition Foundation Incorporated, under the strong leadership of our leader, Congressman Zaldeco, we gladly second the nomination of Honorable Ferdinand Martin Gomez Romualdez of the 1st District of Leyte to be our Speaker of the House of the Representatives of the 19th Congress. The track record of Representative Romualdez in both private and public sector is unblemished. His performance as a majority leader, and we know this by heart, has both sterling and the highest. In these trying times, pandemic and all, the Party List Coalition has full faith that Honorable Romualdez is the best person at the right place at the right time to steer us towards the right direction of unity of our country, confidently rebuilds under the administration of President Bongbong Marcos. Together, the party list bloc, all party list bloc representatives feel that with Representative Romualdez at the helm of the House of Representatives, it will blaze new trails, bringing hope and decency to the lives of all Filipinos. We know that Speaker Representative Martin Romualdez will bring a steady hand as always, an open mind as always, a listening ear to us and to the nation, a clear gaze to the future, a clarity of vision in assessing our current challenges as we bring us together in this house of the people to do God's work and truly serve the common good. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, you have our confidence, our trust to bring us upward, forward together, sir. Mabuhay si Speaker Romualdez. Mabuhay kitang tanan dinhi sa Kongreso. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
At the House of Representatives, several congressmen there nominating Martin Romualdez to become House Speaker. And then in the Senate, we have several senators nominating Senator Loren Legarda, the most senior member of the 19th Congress, as Senate President pro tempore. Let's listen to Senate President Zubiri.
And we thank her for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, my dear colleagues, there being no objection to the motion of our dear Majority Floor Leader, the motion is therefore approved. The Chair proclaims Senator Loren Legarda as having been elected as Senate President pro tempore. Congratulations. May I ask and request Senator Loren Legarda and her family to ascend to the rostrum for the oath taking. I ask for a session suspended to allow the family to come up.
Senator Loren Legarda has just been formally elected as Senate President pro tempore. This is the second highest post in the Senate. Earlier, we heard some of her colleagues with their nomination speeches, among them Senator Angara. We also saw Senator Bato de la Rosa and Senator Nancy Binay. Now they are getting ready to have a photo opportunity with the family of Senator Loren Legarda. After this, several other officials of the Senate will be elected, among them the Senate Committee on Rules, who also becomes the Senate Majority Leader. Siyempre, earlier they were already saying this will be Joel Villanueva. There will also be an acceptance speech following the photo opportunity with Senator Legarda. Another one will be the election of the Senate Secretary, Senate Sergeant-at-Arms. Hindi pa rin malinaw kung earlier manifested Senator Coco Pimentel and Senator Risa Ontiveros said that they were not part of those who voted for Senate President Miguel Zubiri, meaning formally nandun na sila sa minority. Traditionally, there's another nominee at kung sino yung matalo for Senate President, yun yung nagiging minority leader, but we didn't see that happening earlier. Also, Senators Cayetano, Alan, and Pia said that they will be or neither in the majority or the minority at magiging independent daw sila. Let's listen to the oath-taking of Legarda.
Others I may hereafter hold under the Republic of the Philippines.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the Philippines.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines.
That I will obey the laws and legal orders.
That I will obey the laws and legal orders.
And decrees promulgated.
And decrees promulgated.
By the duly constituted authorities.
By the duly constituted authorities.
And maintain true faith and allegiance to the Republic of the Philippines.
And maintain true faith and allegiance to the Republic of the Philippines.
And that I impose this obligation.
And that I impose this obligation
voluntarily, without mental reservation, or purpose of evasion. So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
With the permission of the body, I forgot I had a little oversight. I did not start session, resume the session. But with the permission of the body, we can use that already and place that on the records of the Senate with the permission of the body. Thank you. So we may return the mace. Oh, counted. Okay.
Senator Legarda has just taken her oath as Senate President pro tempore. Professor, ano po ba ang, siguro some are not familiar, ano po ba ang role when you say you have the Senate President and then you have the Senate President pro tempore?
You know, the Senate pro tempore, of course, acts as the parang siya yung vice. Of course, she works with the Senate President and ensure that all things in the Senate runs well. I think that's an important role that the Senate pro tempore plays in the Senate.
Kasi minsan, no, if the Senate President can't be there to preside over the proceedings, no, siya yung pumapalit. But a while ago, we saw, yung pinag-usapan natin, yung election ng Senate President with Senator Zubiri, a Senate President formally elected. Pero nagsalita po doon sila yung magkapatid na Cayetano and then the minority senators, Coco Pimentel and Risa Ontiveros. Ano pong ibig sabihin nun?
They voted because they have to express, of course, on record, right, that they abstain on the election of the Senate President. I think that's most of the time we hear or we see from a minority. What is also interesting there is that they still remain independent in the Senate until and unless we heard later on kung sino na yung magpe-play dun sa minority block ng Senate. I think that's yet for us to know. I think that's something that we have to look at later on.
But what's very clear is we have Senator Pimentel and then Senator Ontiveros. At may statements din earlier si Senator Pimentel na parang si Ontiveros will make way to have him as the Senate minority leader. But also, kanina, during the speech of Senator Zubiri, Senate President Zubiri, he vowed that the Senate will remain independent. It will be a Senate of national reconstruction. He mentioned several others na yung gusto niyang bills for jobs, for hunger, inflation. Ano ba sa tingin niyo yung dapat i-prioritize nila? And do you see the Senate maintaining its independence under Zubiri?
Listening to Zubiri a while ago, I think he pointed out, of course, the role of the Senate as an independent, policy, part of the legislature. And I think he pointed out also that, something about, the executive, the legislative should be a partner for progress. And I think the policy agenda, we can extract actually some of the policy agenda that the Senate could really look at no, he mentioned, of course, some of the priority areas or bills that the president, right, Bongbong Marcos, might take. For example, he mentioned about on how to address the poverty. I think also he mentioned about the some important things, no, that the Senate should really take on. I think one thing that is really interesting on the statement a while ago of Senate President Zubiri was that a fair policy, that what people really want. I think that is something, I mean, maybe from a senior or a legislator like Zubiri is really pointing out the importance of what really people want. Kasi in public policy, we always look at policymakers as they're the one who, the author, right? Na sila yung nakakaalam kung what's best for the people. But what he's telling now is that what really people want. No, dapat yun yung titignan. And for us even in public administration, we've been emphasizing this, that what really the people value. Right? Ano ba yung gusto, no, ng mamamayan? And I think one thing that we are to look at in this Senate, under the leadership of Senate President Zubiri, is that on how to integrate, right, people's participation, I think, right, in the policy making process, on how that if there are different models, no, but I can see a public choice model, no, na gustong ipasok, no, ni Senate President Zubiri here. I think very interesting, no, and also very important, of course, for scholars like me, academics like me, looking at the policy agenda or even the perspectives of a Senate President like that, bringing, of course, emphasizing the importance that the 24 senators will not just be clerks, right? You mentioned that they will not just accept or just be a rubber stamp, of course, for that, and that he encouraged, of course, as a strong, I mean, let's start the debate, sinabi niya kanina, no? And also he emphasized that the strength is on the idea. I mean, that's addressing, of course, for the minority. It's very a strong, a very powerful message, of course, for the minority, that let's get it on. Let's debate on this. No, we're not, of course, na hindi naman sila yung rubber stamps. They're not clerks there. That
Sabi nila lagi, di ba, ang Senate is 24 independent republics daw yan. Kasi di ba, iba-iba rin sila ng iniisip. Interesting din, Professor, yung sinabi ni Senate President Zubiri kanina na we're here to solve problems more than to find faults. Tsaka sabi niya yung in terms of yung investigation, 'di ba? Parang let's do something to improve lives for the social good, not though for social media likes or yung mga ganon, no? Paano kaya ang tatakbuhin ng mga investigation? Halimbawa, yung formally, 'di ba? Hindi naman napirmahan yung formal report ng Blue Ribbon Committee previously chaired by Senator Gordon. Anong nakikita niyong pwedeng itakbo or mga imbestigahan kaya ng Senado for 19th Congress?
Yeah, but of course, hindi kasi natin masasabi na definitely hindi napapansin ni Senator Zubiri yun. Ano? The Blue Ribbon still will be there, right? Will continuously, of course, to finish their maybe those unfinished business.
Which will be headed by Senator Francis Tolentino.
Yes, very. I think they will still do that. But of course, looking at or hearing, of course, Senate President Zubiri stating that his brand of leadership will be more of a consultative type of leadership, right? And more of a collaborative type, if I may, no? Kung ganun niya. It's a collaborative type of leadership. And of course, he is, of course, putting himself in equal, right? Footing with others. But of course, being the Senate President will really, put things in a better, more effective and efficient Senate. I think all those things might, the priority, right? The investigations will still be there, but maybe, of course, more into addressing the current and then future issues that the government or important policies should be adopted in addressing the current and future challenges of the country. I think yun yung magiging direction, through the leadership of Senator Zubiri. Telling, of course, being him collaborative or consultative might bring, of course, hindi siguro mabigyan ng emphasis yung usapin ng mga investigations as part of the Senate's role into looking at, in aid of legislation. Right? And I think that will be, Hindi masyado, but of course, no, more on the addressing current and future policy challenges of the country.
Let's just mention also at the House of Representatives, congressmen are nominating Representative Martin Romualdez for House Speaker, 309 members present, constituting a quorum. Of course, both houses later on will be adopting their own their resolutions for to hold a joint session later on at 4 p.m. to hear the message of President Bongbong Marcos, his first ever State of the Nation address. Siguro, Professor, for my last question, ano na lang ba ang inaasahan niyo? It will be the first SONA of President Bongbong Marcos. What are you looking forward to?
For me personally, I'm excited about it. As a Filipino citizen, I'm excited of hearing the president detailing or give details on how to address the current issues facing our country nowadays. I am more excited of hearing on how he will, of course, address the economic issues, right? On how to address the issue of agriculture, and also on how to address on how to bring people, lalo na po yung mga ordinaryong mamamayan. I think more is to be heard from the president on detailing or the details actually, on how to address these issues. Mas yun yung nakikita, yung ini-expect ko from the president for this State of the Nation address.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Assistant Professor Reginald Dugadan of UP NCPAG. This has been a CNN Philippines special presentation, the opening of the 19th Congress. Stay tuned for our live coverage of the President's first State of the Nation address at 2 p.m. I'm Ruth Cabal. Thank you for watching.
Bahaging ito ng Barangay Baybay sa bayan ng Tiwi ang unang nakaranas ng lakas ng hagupit ng Super Bagyong Rolly.
Strong howling winds brought about by Super Typhoon Rolly has uprooted some trees.
Survivors tell us that the fire engulfed their homes with thousands of evacuees here. Social distancing is almost impossible to practice. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
We're back.
Hell yeah!
I take it very, very seriously. This week on Hollywood Express. F9 is already a record breaker.
It's very humbling to watch them and be able to take advice from them.
A magical reunion is in the works.
Bawal muna ang pakikipag-usap sa loob ng mga tren ng MRT. Some residents are back on the streets of Sampaloc, Manila after the 48-hour lockdown. Pagtaas ng mga kaso ng COVID-19 dito sa bansa. Naglagay na ng mga improvised barriers para sa mga nagbibisikleta. Typhoon Ulysses, a super typhoon. Christina Tulak, CNN Philippines.
This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.